Good morning, everybody. I hope this video finds you well. Today I want to talk about a little bit of an intel drop that I got the other night. I'm going to preface it with the realization that all kinds of people send me stuff, and how valid it can be is up to the reader. A lot of times I don't even bother throwing this kind of stuff out there. This particular intel drop was in Russian, and I translated it, and it was a lot of technical stuff, but I'll give you some of the upshot. There was a couple of generals that were captured, as well as other personnel who were working covertly for the United States government and for NATO. And they were in the Ukraine, and the Russians captured them. I don't think there's anything here that I said that you can't read on MSNBC or CNN or anything like that. Of course, they like to preface everything that they said with alleged, suspected, potentials, all this other kind of stuff. And, I'm doing the same thing. So I got this intel drop. I don't know how good it is. I don't know how accurate it is. It could just be crap. I wasted a whole bunch of my time dealing with it. This one general, he's Canadian, and he's pretty high up, and he was in charge of one of the biological laboratories located in the Ukraine. Initially, I was under the impression that he was a major player in many of them, but apparently he supposedly is only in charge of one such facility. You can believe it or not, who knows? And I don't know how they acquired this information. I'm sure the Russians have their ways. It could be anything from drugs, hallucinations, and torture to treating him like a king, and him just voluntarily diverging the information. It could be anything and everything in between. So let's just leave it at that and not get too worried or uptight about that. Over time, everybody spills the beans. Everybody tells you what they want to know. It's just easier that way. You hold out for 24 hours and then you let it all out, especially if you know your life is over. And I'm sure this general knows that his life is over. He is never going back to Canada. Ever. He knows the best that he can hope for is a quick death. From the intel stuff that I got, it pretty much confirmed a lot of things that I've been saying, that the United States has been doing more than just simply developing biological weapons. It's much more than just 300 bases that are supposed to be just twiddling their thumbs, doing nothing and collecting information. Apparently, they've been very active in doing regional testing, and that's the reason why they're all over the place, is because they're doing regional testing of biological weapons on regional local populations. But it's more than that. Apparently, it has to do with regional testing on populations as well as distribution systems. And we know from the Chinese experience how sophisticated these delivery systems has been. When the Chinese started collecting all those drones that handled the viruses and started unpacking and doing 100% inspection of all incoming packages, they certainly obtained a lot of unique and specialized and novel means of delivery of viruses and diseases into China. And this apparently is very mature technology and has been developed over many decades. You can't point at any single administration for doing this, or any singular Secretary of State, whether it's John Bolton or Anthony Blinken or Hillary Clinton. You can just say, if they're Secretary of State, they ordered this kind of stuff, and just leave it at that. I know nobody wants to hear it. I know you don't want to listen to it. I personally found some of the intel very interesting, but I don't know how true it is. And I'll tell you why I don't know how true it is. One of the things in there was the discussion and how they were studying the use of birds to carry these diseases. The birds would get an avian human virus, okay? So it's something that would affect humans but could be carried by birds. And then when it arrives inside the targeted location where the birds would roost, the mosquitoes in that region, who then feed on the birds, because, mosquitoes are species specific, would then somehow magically fly all over and start biting humans and thus transmit this viral pathogen. I myself am a little bit, how can I say, cautiously curious, and I don't know if I believe that that's actually possible, because insects are species dependent. An insect that feeds on human blood isn't going to feed on chickens or feed on turkeys or feed on pigeons. Now we know, however, that encephalitis happens when there's mosquitoes feeding on horses, and horse trainers get bit by the same mosquitoes, and they end up getting this terrible illness. We know that happens. But seriously, how prevalent is it? Can you really rely on this as a delivery method? I really don't think so. So even though as salacious as this information seems to be, it's a stretch for me. But that doesn't mean anything really.
不需一分对手，墨色手有才够你过色。你所携约而来的斜阳，填补凡尘缺失的心墙。我与人间一笑，如花醉渺渺，似梦若华丽花外扫寂寥。你是不是野火的斜阳，不红香乱香酒的窈窕，一花事业难描，却如此不敢了，花等着抹上一丝生苗。
In the defense of this general, we have to admit that and take it at his word that there were no active projects involved in the release of pathogens into Russia that he was aware of. Again, you can take this intel drop as you wish, realizing whether it's true. Maybe the general's lying, maybe it's false, maybe it's fabricated nonsense, maybe it's translation error, and my understanding of it could be wrong. So just take it as it is, okay? But it's not like what was going on with China. Apparently, plans were made for Russia, but Russia is too spread out and not as congested as China was, so it wasn't considered to be that valuable and viable of a target. Nevertheless, if that's true, then why even bother developing these pathogens? Apparently, there were 4 major pathogens that were being developed. They were all very, very nasty, and all were specialized to create a certain effect. You can also expect that given the rancid, insane level of hyperbole that's coming out of the United States and Washington, D.C. these days with the absolute hatred towards Russia, that I am absolutely surprised and appalled that the release of bioweapons against Russia hasn't already occurred, to be honest with you. I mean, it's not like it's a China, you know. You saw what happened to China with the release of COVID and all that stuff, so why not Russia? There's a bunch of stuff, a lot of technical stuff, a lot of medical stuff, a lot of other personnel stuff. I just skimmed through it. I just thought it was really boring, uninteresting, and it's not my job to convince anybody of anything. I'm just releasing this stuff, and it's going to fall to the wayside because I don't have a big audience at all. I get 1 or 2 oddballs that show up, and that's it. So anything that I say is just bullshit. So just consider it as you will. But what you can say is that the general is releasing information. Whether it's true or not is up to speculation. This information, as provided to me, can be fake or disinformation. It's up to you to decide. I'm just, fuck, I get this stuff, you know, and I can't read Russian for shit. So I really don't know. I think that anybody who wants to use these kinds of biological weapons is an evil idiot, and I think it's a real horrible thing. I don't care what you think about global population or the idea to maintain the American way of life or anything like that. Killing people is killing people. Doing it in a horrible way or surreptitious way is still killing people, and that's wrong. And that's my opinion, okay? And covering up these kinds of crimes against humanity and pretending that they haven't existed, don't exist in America, would never do that. You guys need to read some history. How do you think the United States managed to suppress the Iroquois? Well, they used smallpox, guys. What about the Blackfoot Indians? They used smallpox. That's how they killed them off. Jeez. Nasty, nasty stuff. You know, in these kinds of things, when you get something, somebody says this, well, I got some intel. Is it going to buy me a sandwich? Do I get a cup of coffee out of the deal? Does it put gas in my tank? It's just somebody talking about who knows what the hell, where he pulled it out of his ass. Could be anything. We do know the general was captured. We do know that he was in charge of bioweapons. We do know that the bioweapons are physically located. We've seen the documents. We've seen the pictures. We've seen the buildings. We know all that stuff. It's even been admitted to by, Washington, D.C. So we know all that stuff. That's all true. But what they were doing there, we don't really know. This intel drop says that, it was under control and funding through the Department of Defense and the Pentagon. We don't know if that's really true. Maybe it was funded by the CDC trying to find ways of curing coronavirus. Maybe it was just research on finding new and improved ways to grow crops. We don't know. And in this kind of information war that's ongoing in the Ukraine, anything's possible. One side says this, the other side says that. We don't know what's actually true. So don't get your all hopes up. You got to remember, guys, seriously, the most dangerous propaganda is the propaganda that you want to believe. It fits your ideas, fits your narratives. So you've got to be very, very selective in this, no matter how you may want to believe it or you want to discount it. Okay? If you're going to wait for confirmation from mainstream media, you're going to be waiting a long time. Okay? Till long after the events happened. We didn't find out about the 9 shooters that hit Kennedy until Donald Trump released the information. And that was 60-some years after the fact. Crazy, I tell you what, crazy. So, again, and I'm saying throughout this little chat-a-thon video, that the reason when you hear something, just take it with a grain of salt, whether it's from me or whatever. I don't know if it's true or not. And the reason why I say I don't know whether it's true or not is because I don't physically touch the things. I don't see them with my own 2 eyes. I'm not talking to people face to face. I haven't had dinner with them. I don't know. It's just a piece of paper thrown towards me. Machine translated on top of it. Interpreted by myself. So I really don't know the veracity of any of this stuff. If it's a lie, it's a very, very detailed and constructed lie. If it's true, at the worst, we can say that the people who can think and conceive of these things are truly evil people. Truly evil. Depending upon where you are, what you lean towards. In my personal opinion, take it as you will, I think that this intel drop is just colorful imagination constructed for disinformation purposes. Yes, the United States is developing biological weapons. Yes, they plan on using them on Russia. Yes, they have used them on China. Yes, they will continue to use them. Okay, all this stuff. But the ideas of training birds to do that and release them via mosquitoes and all that. That's mad scientist realm of fantasy. Okay, and that's my personal opinion. And so no matter how interesting these things are, the idea that birds will fly in a migratory path and they will roost over in Russia, and then local Russian mosquitoes will feed on those birds and then bite Russians, is really a bit of a stretch for me to believe. And furthermore, as much as I want to believe, and I do believe, that the United States plans on World War III using biological weapons to suppress the rest of the world, and I'm pretty much convinced on that personally, there are many other ways of injecting viral agents, viral pathogens into a society than using mosquitoes feeding on birds, for Pete's sakes. So let's have a little bit of sanity here. It's cheaper to buy a couple of guards, have a couple officials look the other way, while you put a virus inside of frozen nitrogen, or frozen oxygen, nitrogen, some gas that dissipates at room temperature, carbon dioxide perhaps. And as it dissipates, it infects an entire region. It's cheaper, quicker, more tangible, easier to handle than any such fiction of birds and mosquitoes. I can tell you that in the case of China, how it handled the 11 such bioweapon attacks, they did so because they were able to track them. They treat all viruses as bioweapons, and they treat all bioweapons attack as a military attack, and they have unified their communities to deal with this onslaught. That is their strength at this time. How that is handled, well, it's getting increasingly more difficult for the West to suppress China, because China is closing one by one all the delivery methods and communication methods and everything, effectively isolating itself from the West. Pretty soon, China will turn off the spigot, and then the West can go make its own products. Everybody really wants that. Donald Trump wants that. So, and then everything will be fine and dandy, and America will be reliving the 1950s again, right? That's the idea. How valid that idea is, I don't know. We all want to believe in things. We do, but I can't really tell you if that's really what's going to happen.
这时间倒数，一切变得重复，剧情甜中带涩，你到底想没想过，还随便说说。骑着单车，感觉难以言说，坐在我的后座，浪漫不过就是永不散场。寻寻觅觅，一见一个你，一见难忘，可能你都不信，把我照亮，笑得那么甜蜜。无法抵挡，喜欢你变习惯，寻寻觅觅，遇见一个你，总能让我变得如此着迷。从你身后捂住你的眼睛，月亮弯弯是你的嘴型。这时间倒数，一切变得重复，剧情甜中带涩，你到底想没想过，还随便说说。骑着单车，感觉难以言说，坐在我的后座，浪漫不过就是永不散场。汹涌的人潮躲过了喧嚣，发出了讯号， 起遇见一个你，寻寻觅觅遇见一个你，一见难忘，可能你都不信，把我照亮，笑得那么甜蜜，无法抵挡，喜欢你别习惯。寻寻觅觅遇见一个你，总能让我变得如此着迷，从你身后捂住你的眼睛，月亮弯弯是你的嘴型，时间倒数，一切变得重复，剧情甜中带涩，你到底想没想过，还随便说说。骑着单车，感觉难以言说，坐在我的后座，浪漫不过就是永不散场。时间倒数，一切变得重复，剧情甜中带涩，你到底想没想过，还随便说说。骑着单车，感觉难以言说，坐在我的后座，浪漫不过就是永不散场。
Apparently, the general and the other general have both been spilling beans. Apparently, the Russian attack in the Donbass really interrupted a buildup for a full-scale Ukrainian recovery of separatist movements within that nation. And you can go back and forth whatever you believe about Russia. I'm not going to get too involved in that, except to say that the Russian side of the story has been confirmed, and whether that's disinformation or not, you can decide. Whatever we know is that everything Russia and China has been saying about what's going on in the UK or the Ukrainian in Ukraine has been confirmed by these captured generals, and it's up to you to believe it or disbelieve it. And you can read mainstream or alternative American and Western media, and they'll spin this in one way or the other for their own personal purposes. My take, as I have plainly said, is yeah, I believe it's going on. Yeah, I believe the United States has bioweapon systems. Yeah, I believe that they intended on using them against Russia. I believe, yes, that they have been using them against China. But some of this stuff about birds and mosquitoes, and I find that far-fetched. I don't find it far-fetched that they tested on local populations. I think that it is true that they captured and secured local populations, found a apartment building, and just let the virus pathogen that they constructed do its thing, and then they monitored it. I believe that. But how many times they did that, you don't know. You just don't know. I would say a singular time is really bad, but look what the United States did to its own United States citizens. You think that they would stop with the Ukrainians or Chinese or somebody from South Africa or Zambia or Namibia? Just test on whoever the hell they want to test on, and they test on it. That's just the way it is. And that's pretty much my complete summary of what's going on with this general and the intel drop of him spilling the beans. Take with it as you will. I'm sure there'll be more information in the future, information that supposedly comes from the highest secret. It's in the Kremlin. People, the entire China and entire Russia is locked down. There is no secrets getting out there, not real secrets. Any secrets that get out of there, I don't care who gives it to me, is disinformation designed to elicit a response, whether it's true or not. It's up to you to take it as you will and then use the information for your own purposes. Okay? Remember, it's an information war. Everybody's involved. The worst propaganda, the most effective propaganda, is the propaganda that you want to believe. So be very, very careful. Okay? And I'm just going to leave it like that. Just be a good person. Okay? Take what you will. And at that, guys, be part of a community. Do your best. And at that, guys, I want to end up with my basic words of advice. Be good. Smile. Make a difference in the world that you live in. Be good to dogs, cats. Be helpful. Be the Rufus. Participate. Don't be a spectator. And when the situation calls, take action. And at that, guys, remember,